Okay, so there's a lot of confusion on this, and it's been irritating me. So I want to dig into it, and I want to actually give proper, educated information. A lot of people are saying that they have files, they have this, they have that. So, to summarize this, log file encryption was apparently independently decrypted. From 3D Musketeers was the one that podcasted it. Host confirming that an ethical hacking group, which is undefined here, no one knows who this is, at least not in this post, that everyone's only reading. Apparently there was updates. Here, one of the tidbits that was mentioned is that are definitely breaking additional open source licensing agreements. This is possible. I haven't looked into this. I won't be looking into this. This is none of my business. The host refused to say what exactly. Well, that's already a little suspicious. And then someone pointed out and asked if they were referring to Farmer, and the host said it was not at liberty to say what is just yet. That could be liability, is the reason they're not mentioning that. But in that case, you shouldn't mention it to the public at all then if it's liability. Don't make a half statement. I actually had to mention that the content of the log files includes what every sensor on the printer has measured, your network IDs, your FreeMF files, and more. And yet there's no citation. And then here, there's already a statement that was walked back. Why would he be walking back statements? Now, there's a pinned post here, which was only 6 days ago, in comparison to the post 15 days ago. Now, this says that a lot of this has been independently shown to be false or removed or recanted. And here, this mentions the holes. And this is what we will looking into today. Yep, basically saying don't believe random stuff you see on the internet just because someone says it. True. Now here, this is from Nicola, from nicolac.com. Now, we're going to look at this and I'm going to break this down in a way you may understand. Because a lot of this does get pretty confusing. Now, he does pretty good at simplifying it, but some parts he just doesn't specify. Now, I will be doing a TLDR. I will not be going through every individual line because this video will be hours if I was to go through every single thing, as you can tell by the scroll bar. Now, in the LAN-only mode, it does not send any information to outside servers. It gets time information from NTP. NTP is a standard thing in network protocols. Now, what this is used for is to get correct date and time, because a person's time on their system could be wrong, such as the time on the printer. So it retrieves it, syncs the time with the global time of the world. That is the goal. It does not try and secretly connect any known open networks. So that means any networks that it known the password of before, such as you previously connected, or an open network. It will not try and attach to those if it's in offline mode. In internet mode, it is not sending any large quantities of data. This already defeats the kind of point of them saying that it includes FreeMF files. For one, FreeMF files is not what goes on your printer. G-code is. So how could it send something it doesn't even have in the first place? That's flawed from the start, and yet no one realized for some reason. Now here it states, except the camera stream. And the camera stream is only sent when there are clients using it. And there's further context to this that he doesn't add in this sentence. And it says here that it's sent directly to devices if possible. Now this is too vague for typical people. If you are on the same network as your printer, it will never use servers. It will never do it online. It'll never go through Bamboo. It will only go straight to your phone or straight to your computer. Now, if you are away from home, that is different. It will then go through servers to get to you. That's because it's essential in that scenario. There's no other way of getting that data to you, that camera stream. It states here that changing the mode doesn't change anything really. It doesn't suddenly send everything. So it's not a payload that's delayed. And this is him stating that he is not remotely affiliated with Bamboo. That's fine. Now here he is using Wireshark. For our context for general public here, Wireshark is a standard network analyzer. It's a typical program for Windows computers or other devices. It can run a Mac OS or such. Now, it lets you view network data over the network, typically, and remember this is not always, but typically by faking to be the router in the middle. It spoofs the MAC address of it. It's a little trick. It does not tell the device would not know the data from it is being analyzed. It has no way of knowing. So because of this, Bambu would not be able to make it suddenly hide if it's being analyzed. There's no way for it to know. Now, in offline mode, it did not try and connect to any networks at all, even when he set up a little spoof for it, which is an open network just sitting there idle. LAN-only mode. When it boots, it's overall silent. Now there's NTP, that's just for syncing time. So for NTP, first, it'll get the IP address of ntp.org for the specific pool. It's just a different server, so the load is lightened on NTP. Now it'll get the IP address. That's because in networking, you cannot send data to a domain name. A domain name is just a convenience for a user. In reality, it's always IP addresses in the background. Now, once it has the IP or IPs, it can depend on what is the most optimal server. It will then query them for the time. Now, to elaborate on what these mean, because this just looks like a bunch of words. This is just telling you the frame in Wireshark. You can ignore this. This tells you how much data was sent to that IP address. Now, over here, it's telling you the network interface it was sent from. Or rather, what it was monitored on is more specific. That's just on their laptop or whatever was used. You can ignore this. This is just the name of it. This is telling you the port, which doesn't really matter in this case because it's just doing an NTP request. Now you can see that this is UDP. UDP means that it does not care if the data was received. So there's no acknowledgement back, forth, back, forth. It's quicker, is the best way to put it. This doesn't need to be secure. So it doesn't need to use something like TCP. There's no usefulness for that. Now, flags, you can ignore this too. This is just saying that the clock is unsynchronized. Yep, its mode is client, so it's trying to do the request to, not from. That's fine. Pure polling interval, this is just how many times it'll retry until it gives up. That's fine. Clock precision, we don't need to care about this. We don't need to care about these either. And you can see here, the associator has not been synchronized for the first time. That's fine. These are empty timestamps. Now this is where the timestamp we care about is going to be. You can see below that is filled in. And it was incorrect. Not by much. Really not by much. So if you look at the timestamps, you will see it's slightly offset here versus here. That's fine. That's telling you that when it was transmitted, it was this timestamp. Received, it was this. This is the origin before. That's fine. That's because it takes a tiny amount of time for that to occur. Very little. It's not much, but it's still there. Now, NTP is expected to be pretty chatty. Right? It is back forth acknowledgement for, hey, I need this time. Hey, do you have this time? Okay, thank you for the time. I will now set this time. This is just a standard of IP address. It's a subnet mask if you want to be more specific. You don't need to know the details, ratherly. It's basically just broadcasting to all devices on your local network that, hey, I exist on the network. Hello. That's basically the usefulness of that. It is not really anything specific. It's not scanning for devices on your network or something. It's just broadcasting to all the devices that are in the network, which your router will handle, not Bambu, that, hey, I exist. You can do stuff. And here it says the advertised data is just about where the printer is, its local IP address, and then basic data. Like, for example, what model it is. hey, this is a name of a bamboo. It's a bamboo thing. This would typically be used by LAN mode for bamboo, for recognizing that, hey, this is an actual bamboo device. This has a lot of data that I recognize. Let me recognize this and add this to a list for the user to tap on. It's a convenience factor. Printing. It does not send any additional data when it starts printing. In LAN mode, the only thing that is really seen, and you'll notice as we go further down, is basically no data. It's all local network. Now, here is the data. Sending through Bamboo Studio for this, it does result in more network activity, but it is not anything interesting. Send on the payload. Acknowledgement, header length is only 20 bytes. That's very small. That's not the size of even a single file. 1460 bytes, so okay, that's very small. Now keep in mind, I am doing this live, so I will be reading this alongside you in real time. I have not read through all of this in depth. That's the whole idea, is I don't want to be heavily biased. I don't want to have time to build up answers or things. I want you to see what I am actually trying to do here. I am looking for this for you and giving you my direct assessment of it. Stopping a print is submitting a failure. Now, this is a weird thing. When you're in LAN mode and a print fails and you mark it as having a reason, it will let you submit. Now, if you look further though, there's no additional network activity. Now this here is not network activity magically being there. This is just him showing that it was only NTP and alike. Pardon me. So it's just broadcasts of it being on the network. So you can see that this is to that subnet again, 255.255. And then there is that and NTP. There's nothing else. You'll notice that looking through this entire amount. That's good. Then here it concludes. LAN's pretty quiet. Nothing really concerning if he was to guess. Keep in mind, he has not seen the data, neither have I. I have not seen the decrypted data. This person before, this ethical hacking group, claimed to, but remember, because of Bamboo being a Chinese-driven company, there is incentive for people to slander them. Just because they are from an area that is kind of scummy, which yes, China is kind of scummy at times, yes, does not imply that they have wrongdoing. And it does not imply that they will immediately hand over everything. If they're not receiving any data in the first place, nothing that China tries to blackmail them with will change that. There is nothing they can get. Online mode. So this is the thing everyone's concerned about. Now, it asks for the IP of API-BambuLab.com. Okay, so this would be a local API, maybe for interfacing with online studio across the world. So it's a general handshake for IP address, and then you can see that it has a request. Now, this request does not let us see the data, obviously. Of course we don't. Queried domains. There's eBambuLab, public CDN. So basically different domains. You don't really need to care about specifics. Now, I'll give you a little hint of some of them. Public CDN means public content delivery network. This is typically for just hosting files. A content delivery network, it does not receive data. It receives files. And even then, we would be able to see that in the file length. Even though we can't see the data specifically, we can see how long the data is. And you can say here, it's a bunch of smaller payloads. So it's not files that are relevant. The CDN is likely for updating, I would presume. Now it queries on the US prefix of the domain, which surprised them because they're in Europe. That's fine. And they use EMQX for their MQTT. Now that's, I'm not going to go into specifics of what MQTT is because it is quite complex. But the simple gist behind it is how it's going to communicate. It is essential for it to communicate. Because of this, and you'll find out later in this, we can take advantage of that to know what data they receive. But just wait for that. Now, a small exchange of data, only 100-ish bytes. That is tiny. Using the smartphone app, Bamboo Handy. So it's peer-to-peer. Okay, so it's P2P. So P2P means that there's nothing else involved but your smartphone and your printer. It's one-to-one directly to each other. It does not go through anything else. That's very good. Did not send. Okay, this is good. They did not send the camera stream or even establish a connection for the stream until they press play video in the app. Very good. Very good. Now let's go further. Once the establishes it to the app, the camera sent for UDP directly to the smartphone. So again, no online servers, no servers in China for the camera. So this completely rules out the claim that people were making about it having the camera stream sent, which I do not recall if it was here mentioned. And more, how vague. Okay, let's go further. Sending more data, and we can see that this data, if we read through it, is very small. Yeah, there's really not much here. Looks like a generic acknowledgement. A length of 89, so it's 89 bits. Okay, that's tiny. After about a minute, the printer stopped sending the camera stream to their phone. Yeah, so basically it was trying and failing to get a connection to the phone to send the camera stream, which is expected. It'll retry in case maybe the device had an intermittent disconnection or something. Bamboo Studio is the same behavior as the app with one significant difference. It sent the camera stream immediately. Again, it's direct. It's not to the server, it's straight to your device. But it is instantly doing it without you prompting it. Even if it is just to yourself. Now, here it talks about updating firmware. 371 kilobytes, 97 megabytes. Okay. So this seems completely normal for an update check. If it retrieves the file, it compares it to the one installed, that kind of thing. Acknowledgements on the data received. Data received is in chunks. Yep, that's perfectly normal. Especially for large files. You want to chunk them. You don't want to have that all in one stream because then you could make the network call. Which, obviously, routers do this on their own. You don't need to care of that. They removed a bit of the data because they were capturing beforehand, so it may not be one-to-one exact. But here's the IP address it was downloading from, the amount of packets, which think about like displaying the amount of bytes included, which that is 97 megabytes. The total amount of packets sent, the amount filtered. Yeah, it's pretty small. Like for an update anyway. Keep in mind, we're talking relative. Starting and stopping the print via cloud. No additional domains are used, so it's only the ones we preemptively knew. It's sent to Amazon AWS in US West 1, which would be an individual server. It is in America. It's sent to the printer via TCP. Okay, so acknowledgements. Think of TCP like a handshake and UDP like shouting something so loud everyone will hear it. That's the best way to explain the difference for anyone to understand. Okay, 188 bytes. This looks perfectly fine. It's reading more, 206. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. The itself is encrypted, expected. Subprint does not have anything else, but remember, because the length is so low, this is not including files. At least not in the way you would think. This is just sending a request for you to start or stop a print. And he tries to conclude saying that it does not send any large quantities of data to their servers. Camera stream is point to point, so peer to peer, whenever it is available. So it doesn't even pass through servers unless you're outside of your network, at which it has to, which is normal. And if you're online mode, it will not do that in LAN mode. LAN mode, you'll just never get the camera stream. However, on the client side of things, Bamboo Studio, this could be optimized. Yeah, but this is just a suggestion. This is not really an issue at all. It's only sent to yourself anyway. And this is just a suggestion of getting local servers. That's costly though. Off-the-shelf solutions for their business like MQTT, perfectly fine. And then the bonus. This is what I especially did this stream for, was to analyze this. Because this is interesting. And he doesn't elaborate on this at all. And frankly, I don't expect random people to be able to read what, is JSON. It's a configuration language, effectively. Now, let's go through this. So this is the AMS entry. So I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to put this into something that's easier to understand. So do give a moment. I'm just finding a JSON viewer so we can have dropdowns. Okay. So I have it pasted into this website. I pasted it into this site. And now we can actually look at this and get a better idea of what's going on. So print. Inside print, this is data within. XCAM status and XCAM if defined, which has like skipping parts, spaghetti detection, the general data that they would need to solve a problem if you reported an issue. What the Wi-Fi signal strength is, this is fine. Because frankly, they need to know that so then they can rule out you having a terrible Wi-Fi as being the reason for your issues. Bed temperatures, just general statistics. I'm unsure what remain would be. Upload. File size. Okay, this is just generic data about the file that could have been done. OSS URL is not the same as the file URL. OSS does not imply that. Okay, and upgrade state. Let's have a look through here. Status is idle on upgrade state. Serial number would be redacted. SN is serial number typically. Signals ID is 0. Okay. Version number of firmware. Force upgrade, which I presume is like a security vulnerability, is when they would use that. So they can push updates by force, judging by that. But noting, of course, that would only be used in a very extreme case. I very highly doubt they would actually do that otherwise. More things about versions, consistency request. That would probably be like maybe matching a checksum or something. STD, swear to God, didn't expand. Alright, SD cards, whoever an SD card is included. Because what if you have a faulty SD card? What if your SD card is shorting the pins inside of the SD card port and that causes issues? Well, they would need to know you're using one in the first place to be able to correlate that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, what the print type is, useful. But so far, none of this is identifying information. It is a fair bit of information, yes, but unless it's identifying information, this is not an issue. Google captures 10 times the amount. Easily. This is incredible compared to that. Give respect where things are due. Don't shit on a company for doing something that's respectful. You'll only demotivate them and push people out of the space that were helping you. So you have to be fair with your criticism. Which is what I'm trying to do here. So this would be the network interface. Tells it the configuration status of it, which I presume is like an enum that they know internally. And then just general info about the network interface. cool. So they could rule out your network interface being faulty in your printer, for example. Print stages, so basically general statistics of what the hell your print's doing. And just remember, it does not identify what your print is. It just tells it what it's generally doing. You know, was there an error code? What stage is it at? What substage is it at? How much is the remaining time? Things like that. Lights report, which is just if they're on or off. You know, maybe when one of them's on, it will maybe crash or something, and you made a report. Well, they can correlate it now. Or if it's flashing, that can imply something. Things like that. Correlations. They are very useful for when you're helping a customer, and it's really hard to figure out what the customer's issue is. IP cam is just telling if it's recording, what mode it is, you know, settings that it's got, which note does not tell them anything otherwise. It does not tell them, you know, your literal camera stream. It doesn't let them see you. G-code state, G-code file. Now, note, this is not a file URL. This is file. This is JSON. JSON can only contain plain text. It cannot contain actual file data. So this would be a file name. There is no way in which this could not be something like a file name. So please do not go on that. Whether force upgrade is on, I don't know why they have it twice. None of my business. I am not the one formatting their requests. Which, to further state again, I am not associated in any way or remotely affiliated with Bambu. I literally just wanted to help with confusion because, yikes, there's a lot going on. Reading that was suffering. Fail reason, that's useful. Maybe they have an enum on their server side that they'll be able to tell why it failed on the print. Very good. CTT, I don't know what this stands for, unfortunately, but I can tell that it's an integer, so it's a number. So it's some type of enum they would have. If it's a type of error code, or it could be a lot of things. Command, so the current command state, which right now is just push status. That's perfectly fine. Chamber temperature. Calibration version, I'm assuming it's calibration. Big fan 1 and fan 2 speeds. You know, maybe the speeds are unreasonably high, maybe they're over the maximum. Well, that would be the faulty printer. They'd be able to tell from this data and then send you a replacement, or contact you to see if you need one or whatever. Correlations are useful, like I said, especially when a customer contacts you and you don't know how to help them because you can't physically see their printer. The next best thing is as much data as you can get without crossing that line. And it doesn't seem like they're crossing the line. This seems perfectly fine. Bed temperature, bed target temperature that it's trying to get to, which currently is not heating. So from this data, I could tell that their bed was not heating, and it's currently at 20 Celsius on their bed in their room. That doesn't really tell me much, but it's useful general info if they're trying to figure out why the thing may be, for example, having thermal runaway. Well, they'd be able to tell from this that it's thermal running away. Whatever an auxiliary part fan's there, the AMS status, and AMS RFID status, which would be for recognizing filaments. There's data about your AMS. This seems perfectly fine. It's just general data about the AMS. It's nothing identifying about it. It's not going to tell them what type of filament you have, let's put it that way. Okay, it tells them the humidity. This is about the tray, which, yeah, again, just goes back to the same gist of data. This has nothing identifying here, except for like a tray color. Do you consider that identifying? I don't know. I wouldn't. This is the same type of data, so all these are going to be the same. Yep. So that's irrelevant to me. Temperature, that's interesting. And that's it. That's all of the data. So going back to the post, the final conclusion, it offers really high convenience through internet, They seem to be implemented with privacy wherever they are possible to. Very good. For example, camera stream, which is local if able, but on the other hand, using the cloud to send file results is, well, been sent to the cloud. This may not be desired by everyone. Sure. And keep in mind, files results does not mean file. Do not correlate the two together. File results means, for example, did it succeed printing? Did it fail printing? So. It's giving too much data, is what you're saying, for the goal. Which, yeah, that was a lot of data, but none of it was identifying. While, yes, they could maybe cut it down, they could lower the amount of data, I don't think it's 100% necessary. I think it's just suggested. And it states here, the data is being sent to Amazon's AWS instances physically in US West, which is perfectly fine. It's not China. So it's even easier. It's even nicer. LAN mode seems to offer most of the convenience features, not all, but most, if you're in the same network. And based on the research, seems to properly implement without leaking any information or data to BambuLab. Good. You can additionally isolate the printer through a router or firewall. No, you're just going to do that, and you don't need to because this testing shows that it doesn't even have to be. It actually does what it says. Offline mode seems to be the safest in every way because it never even gets a network. But you lose all of the convenience features. Not just some, all. Okay, I think that all three mods are reasonable and come with reasonable benefits and drawbacks. And the proper one should be picked. Yeah, this just seems more criticizing rather than stating and probably praising. I think this person, so specifically Nicola, I think it should give a bit more praise to them doing good in the industry. They've made things as easy as they can to try to turn printers into appliances, rather than just being a hobbyist, enthusiast type thing. Because, yeah, they're a lot of work, frankly. They've tried to do privacy. They've done it fairly well. Yeah, they could cut something down, conveniently change things, like maybe make it use a local server to use. So that's a lot of work, though. Right now, they're not crossing any lines. There's no need to change. There's just a suggestion to change. Don't criticize someone down for a suggestion that you're making when that suggestion is not entirely needed. I think they're doing good. I think this is a really good step forward. And frankly, I wish other companies were like this. I'm not going to bring out any names, but there's other players in the industry that are significantly worse. Way significantly worse in terms of privacy. And they are Chinese. So, give them some praise. And you can see here that, yikes. Yeah, people are giving a lot of misinfo on these things. Try to say that it's data collection for sale and this, that, next thing. No, it is not that. Now, of course, obvious disclaimer, I haven't seen the encrypted data that this apparent hacking group somehow had, which, I'm going to be blatant, it's SSL. SSL data is fairly well encrypted. I highly doubt they would have went through that much effort. Especially when they were walking back their own statements. That tells me they were likely lying for attention. If it was actually found and actually, decrypted, they would have posted it. Why wouldn't they? They'd post it on Tor, on Onion, basically the deep web. And they would have it hosted there where Bamboo can't take it down. And people would see. But they haven't. And the point of why they haven't is because they haven't actually done this in the first place. This is people looking for attention. Now, some other people noticed they got irritated at it and gave actual objectively good information, that Wireshark data. And I thank them for that. A big thank you to Nicola. Thank you. Someone actually dumping the data and actually doing genuine analysis is really good for this community. It helps a lot of people. And there's less misinformation. Frankly, like this top comment says, do not believe everything you see on the internet. If a claim sounds too outlandish to be true, wait for the evidence. And generally, if something's a negative statement, especially to something like a big company, wait for evidence on it. Don't jump the gun. Make sure you've seen something that represents that. Because frankly, a post like this that gives no actual reference doesn't really tell us shit. Anyway, thank you for actually watching through this. This has been quite a while. It's been a whole half an hour. But I hope you understand this a bit more. It is quite complex, but I tried to do my best in making it a simpler way for people, a simpler explanation. Because frankly, a lot of people are not reading and not clicking on links like this. They're just reading for this generally and not really caring. And with this only having 2 replies, kind of dead. Yeah, this is talking of the post up here, by the way. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. I hope I helped. Bye-bye.